Chandan sir.
Hello.
Yeah, sir, we'll wait for 2 more minutes and we'll start, sir. One more
Okay.
participant yet to join. So please wait for 2 minutes.
Okay, sure. Okay.
Yes, thank you. Okay, good afternoon all. Today we have Dr. Chandan Yadav with us. So I request Sandeep to give a brief introduction about Dr. Chandan Yadav.
Good afternoon, all. I think this is Sandeep. I'm here to introduce uh, our resource person, Dr. Chandan Yadav. Dr. Chandan Yadav received his PhD. I think echo is there. Sir, is it okay now? Hello? Yeah, it's fine, I think. So this is Sandeep. I am here to introduce our resource person, Dr. Chandan Yadav. Dr. Chandan Yadav received his PhD degree in electrical engineering from IIT Kanpur, India in 2017 and MTech in microelectronics from IIIT Allahabad in 2011. He was postdoctoral research scholar at IMS Laboratory, University of Bordeaux, France from 2017 to 2019. He joined National Institute of Technology, Calicut in February 2020 as an assistant professor with the Department of Electronics and Communication Engineering. His current research interests include on-wafer characterization of semiconductor devices in sub-terahertz and terahertz frequency range, EM TCAD simulation analysis and compact model development of silicon and alternative channel material based nanoscale transistors. So with these few words, I am welcoming Dr. Chandan Yadav on behalf of all our participants, and I am over to you, sir.
Thank you, Sandeep, for your kind introduction. Okay, so good afternoon to all of you. My topic of the talk is measurements of semiconductor devices in sub-terahertz and terahertz frequency range. Outline of the talk is introduction is there, then challenges in semiconductor device measurement in high frequency. After that, I will go to the on-wafer measurement in sub-terahertz, and after that, conclusion. So, introduction. Here, I'm showing the electromagnetic wave spectrum that is from radio and microwave to the ultraviolet. Here we can see that as frequency is increasing, we are going from radio and microwave towards the ultraviolet, and after that X-ray. And so as frequency is increasing, the wavelength is reducing. So in few of these bands, there are different applications that we already know, like in radio and microwave. In this, we know about the broadcast on cell phone. So if we go towards the and terahertz cap, so there are different applications. Security is one of them. I will discuss other applications further in next slide. In infrared range, we have application like infrared thermal cameras. Visible lights, we know. Ultraviolet, we use in like healthcare. So let us see what are other applications in and terahertz cap. Here means like sub-terahertz, and terahertz cap is like 0.1 terahertz to 10 terahertz. So this range fall in like sub-mm wave. So there are different applications of the sub-terahertz and terahertz waves. One is the security, other is food safety, and then in communication, and then in self-driving cars, industrial applications, health and medicine, art preservation. So in this talk, I will more concentrate on the communication. In communication, as we know, like we use like different kind of circuits and systems. So I will go through them. Let's quickly. So the circuit and systems that we use in the communications here. Let's going to present for the 5G, because nowadays 5G is more popular. So circuit and systems that can be that is used to build this wireless communication systems can be made of the silicon or GaN or other third, fifth based technologies. So here I'm just presenting few circuits that is fabricated using the silicon-based technology. Here first circuit is power amplifier that is operating at 28 gigahertz and fabricated using
Hello.
design and yes.
I'm not able to see anything. Are you sharing?
Yes.
Is everybody else able to see it? I see a black screen.
It is fine here.
It is visible.
No, sir, visible.
I'll try to reconnect again. Sorry.
Okay. So this circuit is receiver that is designed to operate at between 20 to 44 gigahertz and designed using 22 nanometer FD-SOI technology. This is transceiver that is designed using 14 nanometer FinFET technology. Here, this is linear low noise amplifier that is designed to operate at 28 and 68 gigahertz using 0.13 micron silicon germanium based BiCMOS. So here in this, I have just shown that how like research is going on in the silicon technology based like circuits. Like here it's for SOI. You can see as here is going on, like if as we are moving towards 2020, more and more research is going on for different kind of circuits that can be used for the 5G and other applications. And the range that is there, it's like close to, it's like above 10 gigahertz and close to 100 gigahertz. So right now we are discussing about 5G, and 5G is going to roll out either in 2020 or maybe in 2021. So after that, what will be the next? So like earlier we had 4G, and after that we are now discussing 5G. So next will be the 6G. So you can find a lot of applications even right now on the 6G. So 6G will be even more digitally connected world. You can see here in this publication, you can find more details. This is from Nature. This is from IEEE magazine, communication magazine. So here I'm just showing a comparison that is from 1G to 6G. If we just let's look, first is the period when these technologies came into the picture. So 1G came in 1980 to 1990, 2G is like 1990, 2000, 3G 2000, 2010, and 4G 2010, 20. We are discussing about 5G. It can be rolled out even in 2020. It can go up to 2030. And after that, it is supposed, according to this Nature paper, that 6G may come in 2030 and it will go up to 2040. So according to the evolution from one technology to another technology, maximum speed rate it is also changing. So in 6G, it will be 100 gigabits per second. And if we look into the frequency range, that is we use maximum frequency. So here, let's look into the 4G. So 4G is like it can go up to 6 gigahertz because 5G is going to start from the 6 gigahertz, and for 5G it's like 90 gigahertz maximum frequency. And if we look into the 6G, so this paper is like cited that it can go up to 10 terahertz. So if we need 10 terahertz, like if we will operate 6G in 10 in terahertz range, then to like develop such kind of systems, we need devices and circuits that should operate in that particular frequency range. So I will discuss briefly about them. And next slide. So here I have just shown like a few countries has already initiated the research in like 6G technologies. So Finland started in 2018, United States, South Korea and China, they started in 2019. Japan has already allocated $2 billion for the 6G and they have not decided yet. So this data is according to the Nature paper that is published by S. Dang and et al. In Nature Electronics in 2020. So here I'm talking about the state-of-art silicon technologies. So if we are going into terahertz, sub-terahertz or terahertz, so let us see what are the performance of the devices. So we measure the performance of the devices in high frequency, like using FT and Fmax. So we have already like devices that have like FT 505 gigahertz and Fmax 720 gigahertz. This device is fabricated using 0.13 micron silicon germanium by CMOS HBT. So we have other devices also that are close to 500 gigahertz in HBT. And if we look into the FDSOI, that is MOSFET. So it's FT and Fmax is close to 340, 350 and 370 gigahertz. So here we can see in this graph here how we calculate the FT and Fmax. So x-axis is frequency, this is in log. Y-axis here it is H21 and U is the universal gain. It is shown in dB. So up to it's like 67 gigahertz. Here we can see solid lines. So these solid lines are from the measurement data. So after that, you can see dashed line that is showing the prediction of this solid line that is extended, and they are cutting like x-axis like that is 0 dB. So here it's like for where H21, it's like it is 505, and U that is universal gain. It is this line is cutting frequency at 720, so this is corresponding to Fmax. So we can see that we are only now able to accurately measure devices only up to 110 maximum. So above that it's very challenging. So let us see what are the challenges and how they come into the picture. So here, let us we want let's see if let's we want to develop a RF system. Then for the RF system development, we need like RF circuits for different blocks. So to design an RF circuit, we use SPICE models, and if our SPICE model is accurate, then we whatever the circuit we are design, the circuit performance will also be accurate. And the accuracy of the compact model, like SPICE models, actually depends upon the measurement data. So if our measurement data is like accurate, reliable, and repeatable, then the compact model development the will be more, and the extracted parameter of the compact model will also be accurate. So the circuit design and system will also be accurate. So let us see here, as I shown in the previous slide, that above 110 gigahertz, like measurements are a bit difficult, is as parameter especially. Let us see what are the difficulties. Here, I have a discrete device that we want that we want to use in the circuit device, circuit design. Either let's say it's IGBT or it can be a MOSFET. So if we look into in the design of the circuits, we need only the terminal characteristic of the devices. Okay. So if we look into the real substrate, how they are fabricated. So these devices are fabricated on the surface of the silicon. And here, like I have just shown, like here, let's say I have a device, I have terminals, different terminals. So how we access the terminals to the external world? Like we like make the interconnects, and using the interconnects, we access the terminals of the devices. So here, when we make the interconnects, so how we connect the interconnects to the external world? It's like through the RF pads. Okay, here you can see in the gray color GSG. G here, G stands for ground, S stands for signal. So this is a discrete device. So if we look into the wafer, here I have just shown a layout. So this device is located here. So on a wafer, we have like more than one devices. So if we want to, we want to characterize only a discrete device, but we have like interconnects, we have RF pads, we have like here other neighboring structures. So all these things makes like measurements very complex. So we need to remove the effect of interconnects, we need to remove the effect of RF pads, we need to remove the effect of layout related impacts, and obviously related to the RF probes that we use in the measurement. So let us see how we measure the devices. So in the standard process, we use like 2 steps. In first step, we perform the calibration, and in second step, we perform the de-embedding if required. So how we measure the devices as parameters here I'm talking about, because I'm talking about high frequency. So we use vector network analyzer. We use like RF tables and heads. If frequency of the vector network analyzer is that the desired frequency is beyond the frequency that is being provided by the vector network analyzer, then we use heads to extend the frequency. After that, here we use the RF probes. Okay. So after the measurement, we perform the calibration. So after the calibration, we set the reference plane. This is the measurement reference plane. It means whatever we are measuring, the data will be corresponding to these 2 points. It's not otherwise. It will include data that will be like contributed from the RF probe to this heads, cable, and everything. Okay. So usually what we do, we perform off-wafer calibration using ISS. Here I have shown ISS. This is impedance standard substrate. This here devices are fabricated on the alumina substrate. So yeah, so we want to measure the silicon devices, but we are using here ISS, that is where devices, calibration kit devices are fabricated on the alumina substrate. So if we use this procedure, like we use off-wafer calibration using this ISS, then the measurement will not be accurate. Why? Let us try to understand it. So first thing is that there will be impact of substrate, like calibration kit structures are fabricated on the alumina, while we want to let's measure the silicon device. So they both have the different material properties. Due to different material properties, the interaction of the propagating wave with the substrate will be different. Here, it is the same thing is shown through the electric field at 110 gigahertz. In first one, it's aluminum substrate. Right side, it's fused silica. You can see the electric field contours are not exactly the same. They are different. Why? Because of the differences in the material properties. Second challenge comes from the back end of line. So in the ISS, we have only gold plate on top of the silica, on top of the aluminum. While if we look into the silicon-based devices like in HBT, either in MOSFETs, so here we have very complex backend of lines. Okay, sometimes here I am showing this backend. This backend has 8 metal layers, and even more complex backend layers are also there. So this is the second difference that makes standard procedure with any grade. Third is like RF pad design. In ISS, if we look into the ISS here, this is through. This is the through. If we look here, it's like it's plain like one metal strip that is based on the gold. But here, if we look into the RF pad that we design and fabricate on the silicon device for the silicon devices on silicon substrate. So here, this is totally different design. And here we use aluminum. Okay, this gray color shows the aluminum, indicates the aluminum. So here in this one, in ISS, we use gold, while in silicon, we use aluminum. Gold and aluminum has like different resistance that also makes changes in the measurement if we are going to use ISS. Another difference is like design of the calibration kit on the alumina in ISS and in the, sorry, here it's stupid, and on the silicon. Here we can see the design is totally different compared to the ISS. So these differences makes like differences in the S parameter measurement also. So let's, if we are using off-wafer calibration on the silicon, and after the calibration, we shift our measurement reference plane here. That is shown here with the orange color. So what will happen? And after that, we go for the de-embedding, on-wafer de-embedding, and we shift our measurement reference plane somewhere here. Then what will happen? That since we are using the off-wafer calibration, and in off-wafer ISS has like differences than the silicon-based silicon-based devices. So due to that, we will have like whatever the calibration we are doing, that will not be accurate, and de-embedding will not be accurate. So what is the option? Option is that go from the off-wafer to on-wafer calibration. Okay, so here, sorry, it's on-wafer. Here it should not be on ISS. So in on-wafer calibration, what we do, we design the calibration kit structures and fabricate them along the DUTs on the silicon substrate. So what will happen? We will have like similar properties in the calibration kit structures, like we will have the same substrate, we will have the same RF pad design, we will have the same backend of lines in the calibration kit structures like we have in our DUTs. So now our measurement will be more accurate compared to the off buffer than on buffer embedding. So calibration range of validity here, it's like we have same electrostatic environment for the calibration kit structures as well as the DUT. So our calibration is more accurate compared to off buffer calibration. Okay. So what are the, okay, so it's done. So let us see what are the challenges that we face usually. So let's now, we decided that we are going for the on buffer calibration, not for the off buffer calibration. So after that, what are the challenges? Challenges are the selection of calibration method and the calibration methods and the banding methods. And ensure that, let's say if we are measuring a DUT, then we are only measuring the characteristic of DUT. Okay, that doesn't have the impact of RF probe or neighboring structures or anything else. And verify the measurement result using the simulation results if possible. So yeah, let's if we want to go for the on buffer calibration, then we need to design the on buffer calibration kits. Here I'm just showing the design of the on buffer calibration kit that we designed and fabricated according to BiCMOS 55 nanometer technology, that is of the ST Microelectronics. So let us go for the let us here see the selection of the calibration method. We have two methods that we usually use. One is on buffer TRL. Here T means through, R means reflect, L means line. So, and another is ISS sold. Here ISS means impedance standard substrate, sold means short, open load, and T means through. So these two methods are there. Let's try to find out we should go for the on buffer TRL or ISS sold. Okay, so if you want to compare these two, so let's go for first ISS. So in ISS, what we need, we need simulation of through, reflect, it could be open and short, line and load. And then in first step, we need to do the simulation of here, ISS calibration kit structures. Then we need to extract the sold parameters using ISS TRL. We have used this method. More, you can find more detail in this paper that we have published in IEEE transaction on terahertz. So how we found the characteristic of the ISS structures, we performed the interferometry, and using that we obtained the thickness of the layers that are fabricated, thickness of the layer of calibration kit structures that are fabricated on the aluminum substrate. And after getting the thicknesses, we make EM simulation environment for the ISS structures that is shown here. And in ISS, we also need pad open and pad short for the de-embedding. So that those structures we fabricated on our along with our DUTs on the silicon substrate. Here description about the structures are shown. Okay, so after getting the parameters using ISS and here pad up, after measuring doing the simulation of pad open and pad short, we went for sold on ISS. So after that, we got the, here we are showing the characteristic of pad open and pad short. okay, that we need to use for the de-embedding. Here you can see these are the reference line. Okay, these are the measurement reference line. This side is for pad open, pad sort, this side is for pad open. So after that, we perform the de-embedding using pad open and pad sort. So here, after performing the de-embedding, we shifted our measurement reference plane, that is here, end of the axis line. Here this. So here we are showing the measurement, that is with the solid line, and simulation result, that is with the red dash line, and this black line is intrinsic. This black line is obtained from the intrinsic structure simulation of the transistor open. So this black line shows the ideal characteristic. So we can see that red dashed as well as red solid line both are diverging from the ideal behavior that is shown from the black line. Okay, so this is this behavior we obtained using the ISS salt. So let us now go for the on-wafer TRL. So in on-wafer TRL, we need to simulate the through, reflect, line, and load. And here pad open and pad sort, that is inside the reflect. And after simulation, we perform the TRL on-wafer calibration, and then we go for the impedance correction, and then we apply it on the DUT. So here we have here we have, after the TRL calibration, here we can directly shift our measurement reference plane at the end of axis line. Here, that is at exactly the same position that where we shifted our measurement reference plane in ISS salt using 2 steps. So in on-wafer TRL, we need only 1 step. So here the comparison of the here salt and on-wafer TRL is shown. Top is the comparison. Top is for top two magnitude and phase is shown, that is obtained using salt ISS, and in bottom it's on-wafer. So let's compare. If we compare the magnitude that is obtained using salt and TRL, then we can see that in the TRL, the characteristic that is obtained from measurement and simulation, that is very close to the ideal characteristic. Ideal characteristic is shown through black line. But if we look into the salt, we can see that after it's 220 gigahertz, like measurement results are deviating more from the ideal behavior. This is for magnitude. Same is true for the phase as well. Shows that if we go for the on calibration, good result in like from up to 500 gigahertz. But if we go for the salt ISS, then the measurement result will not be good, like above 220 gigahertz. So another DUT that is renamed as meander line. Here we use the same process, and here we can see the result that is shown, that is obtained using salt ISS. In here again we are like getting the measurement and simulation result, like that is deviating more from the ideal characteristic. While the result here, this is from the on-wafer TRL, you can see that the measurement as well as simulation result through the on-wafer TRL is very close to the ideal behavior. So this measurement and simulation comparison again shows that the on-wafer TRL is better even after 220 gigahertz and up to 500 gigahertz, while salt ISS is not good above 220 gigahertz. So what are the reasons, like limitations here? It's like salt is frequency dependent, probe dependence also, that we have not shown here. and substrate to probe coupling is there. And another difference is calibration kit material that I discussed earlier. In salt, we are using ISS, and in ISS, like we have alumina substrate. So that has different material properties compared to the silicon. And the limitation of de-embedding methods. Let's we are using here pad open and short de-embedding that may not be good enough. So that's another thing. So these are the limitations. Due to that, we may here whatever the result we shown like we discussed that may be not accurate. So based on these results, we can say that on wafer TRL calibration is better compared to ISS salt. So let us go towards the importance of EM simulation. So here I'm just showing. This is the probe. These are the RF probes, and here I have mounted RF probe. Here I'm measuring this device here. So when this propagating wave is like coming from this RF probe, here in RF probe we have ground signal and ground. So the waves are coming here when they interact, when they come to like close to the device. So they also interact with other on-wafer structures. We want only measure this particular device characteristic, but that is not possible. Okay, so through the measurement, it's not possible to visualize these things. So it's so if we go for the simulation methods, so in simulation methods, we can visualize this impact of these things, and we can correct them. So here let's go RF probe. Let's here look into the impact of RF probe design in on-wafer measurement. So here I'm showing 3 different probes. First probe is PP. Here PP means Pico probe. That is a company. Pico probe 100 micron pitch. The 100 micron pitch here. Pitch means here the difference between this distance between this middle of the signal trace and middle of this point. Sorry. This point. So this is the pitch here. So this is 50 micron pitch, and this is from CI. CI means Cascade Infinity. This is a different company. So these 2 probes have the same topology. Okay. Coplanar. After that, this is coaxial part. While in this probe, we have like different topology. Here we have coplanar. After that, we have microstrip, and after that, coaxial part is there. So I'm using these 3 probes to measure same device, and I'm also using the same calibration method. So I want to characterize transistor open, and I want to measure the characteristic here that is between these 2 green lines. And I'm going to use TRL on wafer calibration. So using these 3 probes, we performed the measurement, and we performed the measurement, and we also performed the calibration, and then we apply the calibration on this transistor open. So we got this characteristic that is for transistor open. So in first like band, that is from like DC to 110 gigahertz. Here we use 2 different probe, and the results are shown in blue and red color. Here we can see that both results are very close to each other. Okay, so and these 2 results are like from first 2 probes, and in second band that is 142 to 20 gigahertz. Here we used like Pico probe 50 micron pitch, second and third probe. So here we can see that we can see we are measuring the same device, just we are using 2 different probes. So our measurement results are like have differences, like huge differences. So it's very difficult to understand like these differences, why these differences are coming. So what are the options like? So yeah, so this is one difference here. So what we did, we thought that let us use the RF probe from the same company and let's perform the measurement up to 500 gigahertz. We are measuring the same device. We use 4 different probe from the same company and we perform the measurement in 4 different bands. First is DC to 110 gigahertz, second is 142 to 20 gigahertz, third is 220 to 325 gigahertz, and fourth is 325 to 500 gigahertz. So we obtained the characteristic that is shown here with the orange color. This is the magnitude, and this is also magnitude. This is for S21, this is S11. So this is transistor open. Transistor open means this is the reflect kind of device. So in the reflect kind of device, we expect that all the signals will be reflected back. So S11 should be like 0 dB ideally. So ideal characteristic is here shown with the dashed black line that we obtained from the intrinsic EM simulation. So we can see that measurement is deviating from the ideal behavior, and in each band deviation is different. While we expect that these characteristics should be very close to the ideal behavior that is shown in the black color. Same is for S11 and S22 also. So why this measurement results are deviating from the ideal behavior, we don't know actually. And what are the method, like how we can identify the regions? So one thing is that go for the realistic simulation. Realistic simulation means develop a simulation platform so that you can perform the simulation that is very close to the measurement environment. So what we do, so in this here, as I discussed, like we have used 4 different probes, and all 4 probes have different different dimensions, and even there are some differences in design as well. So if we are going for a realistic simulation, so first requirement is that design RF probes that is used in measurement for each band. So after that we can perform the realistic simulation. So yeah, so what we did, we took microscopic pictures of 4 probes that we used in 4 different bands. Here I have shown just one picture for each band, but we took multiple pictures. And then these probes. We designed it in EM Simulator, HFSS. Then we perform the EM simulation. That is here. This is our simulation setup. This is RF probe that is very close to the realistic probe that we use in our lab. And this is our setup. We perform the EM simulation using all 4 probes that we designed in HFSS. And here we see, we have shown the the simulation result using the realistic probe with blue color. So after the design, we can see that here we have like we can predict the measurement results in S11 as well as in S22. So this simulation setup is like very helpful for to understand different kind of effects in the high frequency measurement. So if we look here, if we go from second band that is terminated at 220 gigahertz and third band that is starting from 220. So we are measuring the same device at the same frequency. But here you can see that we are getting 2 different results at the same frequency. Only difference is that we are using 2 different probes. So to understand this difference, we plotted the electric field contour at the same frequency, that is 220 gigahertz. Here this contour is corresponding the probe that we used in 140 to 20 gigahertz. This characteristic, this electric field control is corresponding to the probe that we used from 220 to 325 gigahertz. So here, this is, this is port 1 side, this is port 2 side, okay? So in this, we can see that there are a lot of coupling between probe to probe, like that is the probe that we are mounting at port 1 and port 2. And we have also coupling with the, more coupling with the substrate. While if we look into this probe that we used here in this band, so here we can see like very less coupling compared to the probe that we used in 140 to 220 gigahertz. So yes, we can clearly identify that why these differences are coming, because here the design of probe is providing more coupling. Due to the more coupling, we are getting more deviation from the ideal characteristic compared to this result. Is here in S221. So this is this work we shown, like we published recently in IEEE transaction on terahertz, and this is first kind of work that is done by any group. So this work is like development of a simulator. Like we use TCAD for analysis of semiconductor devices like DC characteristic, analog, and RF at lower frequencies. So this is similar kind of thing. It is a simulator. So here, I'm showing up one application of this realistic platform. So let's see, if I want to measure a device from like let's DC to 500 gigahertz, and the measurement should be continuous from one band to another band. So we perform the EM simulation using all 4 probes, and we found that the design that we used in lab, RF probe design that we used in lab, in those first 2 probes, like that is 1 gigahertz to 110 and 140 to 220 gigahertz. If we use these 2 probes, then our results up to 220 gigahertz is like it's showing resonance. So this is not good. And if we use the probe that has been used in like lab for 220 to 325 and 325 to 500 gigahertz, then our measurement is very is continuous from one band to another band and very close to the ideal simulation. Here we can see that this result is shown in here, these 2. So this realistic platform is helpful to understand how to understand why you should not go for these 2 designs above 220 gigahertz, while these 2 designs can be used even below 220 gigahertz. So another application is I am designing calibration kit structures and DUT also for the silicon on the silicon wafer. So I want to place structures, like we have different structures that we need to place around a DUT. So what are the best possible way to measure around the DUT? Here I have a structure that is shown inside the dashed rectangle. So one way is that put structure in this way. Another is like here we have DUT, you can put structures in this way. So if we are using design A, then in that case, what will happen? Here dash line is the result that we obtain without any neighbors. And if we are putting the neighbors and we are changing the value of D, then we can see that as we are very close, if value of D is very less, let's 20, then we have more deviation from the characteristic that we should obtain. As we are increasing the value of D, the characteristic of device including neighbors is close to the expected value. Let's say if we go for the design B, then in this case, if we can optimize value of L, then even for lower value of D also we can use this design. So this realistic platform, simulation platform is very helpful for the layout optimization. Application of here I am just showing. Let's I have a design device here, transistor open, and let's after the measurement we obtain that the device is showing negative capacitance here. So how we can how we can analyze this characteristic why we are getting negative capacitance. So if we have realistic RF probe, then through the EM simulation we can analyze why this characteristic is coming actually. So here after the simulation we found that we have, if we are using this, we are getting like port 1 and port 2 like are coupled from the back side of the substrate. Due to that, here we are getting the negative value of capacitance C12. So how we can improve the measurement? What we did, let's using the same probe, we changed the design of the RF pads. So using the change in the design, we got the improvement in our result here. The improved this, using this design, we are getting this result, green color result, that is improved compared to this blue color. So this next application is like let's say if you want to verify robustness of the calibration method, then we can use this realistic simulation platform. Here what we did, we are measuring the same device, and here we use two different reflects. In TRL we can use two different reflect. Either it can be pad short and can be pad open, and theoretically we expect that both the result, if we are using either pad short or pad open as a reflect, in both cases we must get exactly the same result. But in the measurement, what we observe that if we are using these two reflects in the on before TRL, then we are getting differences in our result. So we perform the EM simulation to understand this behavior. So we observe that if we are performing the on before calibration, then due to the coupling of the DUT with other on before neighbors, we will not get the ideal characteristic of the reflect, either it's pad short or pad open. Due to that, we are getting these differences. So using this platform, we can also suggest some method. We can come up with some solutions. So we came up with two solutions. One is, let's see, if we are going to use RF probe design, improved RF probe design compared to these realistic probe designs, then we can get the improved S parameter measurement. Here we have shown here the simulation behavior using this probe. Here when we are using this probe, this CPW probe, then the coupling with the neighbors are very less compared to the coupling that we shown here. So due to this, what happens, our result using both the RF probes are very close. Another way to improve the S parameter result is like improve the calibration kit structures design itself. So what we did, we have the oxide rings. Due to the oxide ring, what is happening, like the waves are like penetrating to the back end of lines, and they are getting coupled with the substrate. So what we did, we removed this oxide rings around each structure with the metal lines, and after that what we observe that now coupling is reduced very much, and due to that now we are getting, you can see very close result that here shown with the dash lines. So up to here the simulation was only for the passive structures, but let's, if you want to measure the if you want to analyze the on wafer as parameter measurement of active device, so it's not possible to analyze on wafer measurement of active devices in present TCAD and as well as EM simulators, because if we go for the EM simulator, they cannot simulate the active devices, and TCAD simulators, they're not capable to include the impact of RF probe designs and all these things. So we came up with a new method. So using that method, we can now analyze the on-wafer S parameter measurement of any active device. So here, let's, if we want, here we have shown the characteristic of, we have applied this method on the HBT. So here, this is the device, we want to measure. So here we are using like SPICE model prediction. Here HiCom is for HBT. And we performed EM simulation, 4-port EM simulation. And then we went for TRL calibration procedure, and then we performed the de-embedding. More details you can find in this paper that is coming very soon in TED. Here are the results that I'm showing. Symbols are the measurement results that we obtained from the lab measurement. Solid lines are the measurements. Solid lines are the prediction using the proposed method that we proposed here. And dashed line are the SPICE prediction. So the solid line, you can see that solid lines are predicting the measurement results very well compared to the dashed line that we obtained from the SPICE simulation. Why? Because this method is like including the impact of RF probe design, impact of coupling with the on-wafer neighbors, and probe to probe and other kind of couplings, all these things. Due to that this method is providing very like close result compared to the measurement. Here again you can see same thing in S22. The solid line is very close to the measurement, while this dashed line is like deviating more from the measurement result. So here is the conclusion. So the conclusion is that if we develop EM simulation platform for on-wafer to analyze the on-wafer S parameter measurement of active and passive devices, then that is very useful, and that can be used to optimize the calibration kit structure designs before fabricating them in lab. And we can analyze impact of BUL in MM-wave circuits. Even here I'm just showing in the devices. And they are very useful to perform the theoretical work on calibration and embedding techniques in MM and some MM waves. What are the impact of this kind of work? It will save time and cost, and it will also help in development, compact model development of semiconductor devices that can be further used for the complex circuit and system design in sub-terahertz and terahertz frequency range. Okay, thank you. So these are the references that you can go through. Okay, so this is all that I had.
Participants, if anybody have queries, you can please ask sir directly by unmuting your mic. Hello. Hello.
Yeah, please go ahead.
Yes. So, participants, anybody have queries? You can please ask. You can directly ask in your mic.
Hello, sir.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Hello, sir. My name is Manimohan MS. I'm from Kerala University. I'm a MTech student. Okay, sir.
Okay.
Hello.
Yeah, please.
Okay. So, how to improve the bandwidth of the communication channel?
Oh, that's not mine work.
Okay.
Actually, I work in like device measurement and compact model development. So
Okay.
sorry,
Okay.
that is beyond my work.
It's okay, sir. Okay. Sir, once again, one question, one more question. The electric, the light is a good method using now in the communication channels. In the 60 generation, which one of the
Mhm.
parameter or which one of the way used for the communication?
Uh, I'm not sure because 6G will come like in 10 after like 10 years and if we look into if we talk about the interconnects, then optical interconnects could be there, but I'm not sure about that.
Okay, okay, thank you, sir.
Yeah. Thank you.
So, if anybody have queries, you can ask. Some queries are there in chat box, sir.
Okay.
Hello. Somebody posted query. What are the tools used for de-embedding procedure?
Oh, here we use ICCAP.
Sir, any other tools other than this? Any?
I see. We used ICCAP and this de-embedding can also be performed in MATLAB also, I think.
Is anybody else? Queries, please. So I think that's all.
Okay.
Okay, sir, one minute. One more query is there in chat box. Quantum physics have any role in the device controlling?
Oh, it depends. It depends on the device dimensions. Obviously, there are impact of the quantum. You can say if you are scaling the devices, then you can observe the impact of quantum phenomena in the device characteristic.
Yes, I think that's all, sir. Sir, thank you
Okay.
very much, sir, on behalf of our participants for giving a very good talk on emerging trends, especially like 6G and terahertz frequency of operations. Thank you very much, sir.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you for inviting me.
Thank you. Linky, ma'am.
Sandeep, I am here.
Sir, please.
Yes. So, hello participants. Yeah. So I have forwarded one manual for you, right? For NMOS. So you people can practice that one for 1 hour. So whatever doubts you have, Ceci will address all those doubts. I'll inform to Ceci, and he will address all of doubt. Whatever you have in using Visual TCAD, he will address all the doubts. Thank you.
Participants, please be online. I will post the attendance link. Sorry for the delay. Please be online. I am posting the attendance link. Okay, attendance link is posted. Please copy and give your response. Okay, somebody are asking to resend the manual. Okay, we'll post it in the WhatsApp group. Attendance link is posted. Please copy it and give your feedback.